We do that by just telling stories, really. We believe that Jesus Christ was the best storyteller, and we believe that he truly said, go out and tell stories, because that's the most powerful thing. That wins the heart and the mind, and it'll get people to follow what you're doing, follow what you're doing, follow what you're doing. And so we tell stories to people in the world, and we love our life, we love our job. Most people view us as like a nonprofit, a charity. We view ourselves as a business, as a company.
I don't know if you heard this or not, but we won $1 million, so...
Yeah, bottoms up. The guy playing drunk there is Jedediah Jenkins, one of the head guys at Invisible Children, the group that put out that Kony 2012 video.
The video is from 2010, right after their charity won $1 million grant from a bank, Chase Bank.
1 week after the earthquake in Haiti, and Jenkins jokes about keeping most of the money.
$100,000 for Haiti and $900,000 extra for me.
That is a horrible joke.
We wanted to check in with Jason Russell, co-founder of Invisible Children.
What?
Right back to the
They're gonna come tackle him with a
Oh my God, that shit.
But he's got his own thing going on right now, so best to leave him alone.
It's going to be a white male in his late 20s, was running around with his underwear only, now has no underwear and is masturbating and screaming at passerbyers. He is now going to be banging his head on the ground. He's screaming incoherently.
What about Jason Russell, the father in the Kony video, was hospitalized on Friday for getting sexy with himself in public. He was not arrested and will not be charged. He is on psychiatric hold.
Scandalous. You mushroom tip going masturbating in public, butt crack in people's faces, and now you want some more money.
How did he not get arrested for that, man?
Hey, man.
If I did that, my ass is gonna get at least 5 years.
At least,
man.
this fool putting together more documentaries to make some more paper.
Documentaries, man, making all this paper, don't even get arrested, man.
Yeah, man.
It is disturbing and flaming. Invisible Children and his wife put out statements saying he doesn't have a substance abuse problems. He is suffering from exhaustion, dehydration, and malnutrition. Girl, I get exhausted all the time. I do not take out my penis in public. What straight man has that many highlights in his hair? The wife said, oh, he wasn't ready for all this attention. Then why would he highlight his hair if he didn't want attention? Am I right, ladies? It gets better.
You have been accused of terrible crimes. You know, people having their ears cut off, people having their lips cut out.
Yes, that one is not true. That is propaganda which Museveni made.
I've seen the photos of people with no lips.
Yes. That is propaganda which Museveni made. Let me tell you clear. That thing was happening in Uganda. Museveni went in the village and he cut the ear of the people, telling to the people that thing was done by LRA. Which is not true. I cannot cut the ear of my brother. I cannot kill the eye of my brother. I cannot kill my brother. That is not true.
Are you saying that the LRA have never been involved in any abductions, any mutilations, any rapes?
Yes.
They've never been involved?
LRA has never been involved on that one.
Now, we also have credible reports that the Ugandan government has also used that same tactics and then blame it on the LRA.
But thousands of the soldiers who fought to put Museveni in power were children. At the time, child soldiers were accepted as quite normal.
Okay, so I brought the children you want. There you are. In Africa here, even by the age of 4, you learn how to fight. This is our tradition. If you don't know, fight with sticks, with a spear, with arrows. That's the tradition. So if you are trying to think that this may disorient them psychologically and so on, that is not the case. So if you are trying to think that this may disorient them psychologically and so on, that is not the case.
Kony 2012 is already the fastest growing social media video campaign we've ever seen. Your thoughts on this?
Well, this is absolute propaganda, Christine. Not only is it full of lies, it's simplistic, and it's directing the American public to support further military action in Africa.
What is not true about the film?
For example, that Kony has 30,000 children in his army. This is not true. Over the last 26 years of Kony's military actions against the government of Uganda, there have been supposedly 30,000 children abducted. Who abducted them is not clear, because Museveni, the president of Uganda, is responsible for genocide in northern Uganda, and he needs Kony to be able to justify continuing U.S. support and military support and now sending in troops, which we've been doing for quite some time.
Thank you, Mr. President, for joining us.
Thank you.
We haven't seen resistance, Mr. President, in that clip. We have seen policemen breaking windows of the vehicle of the leader of opposition.
No. Yes, you have got freedom to demonstrate, but the police has got the power to regulate public assemblies. This is in the Constitution of Uganda. And why is that? Because you want to demonstrate, but me, I'm selling my tomatoes. And where you want to pass is where I happen to be selling tomatoes. Yes, you want to walk, you want to demonstrate, but don't step on somebody's tomatoes. That's how civilized societies are organized.
3 or 4 times, Mr. President, we've seen Dr. Besigye trying to make this walk, this so-called walk to work. And in all of those incidents, we haven't detected any violations. You're talking about stepping on tomatoes. We haven't seen any of that.
They were planning. That's what they were planning, to do that. They were planning to do that because the police has got intelligence. They know.
Describe yourself to me. Tell me who you are.
I'm a military position who is fighting in Uganda. I'm a freedom fighter who is fighting for freedoms in Uganda. But I'm not a terrorist.
While I was there, I didn't see any young children.
I did not abduct anybody there.
AFRICOM is the creation of the Bush administration, Donald Rumsfeld to be exact, to expand the power, the outreach, the resources of the Department of Defense at a time really when the continent needs development, needs housing, needs healthcare, needs education, those core building blocks of healthy societies. The U.S. responds really with arms, with military training, with equipment and other military hardware. This, however, is not necessarily new. So what we see now is a repeat of that Cold War experience, really, with the U.S. arming and equipping militaries, essentially putting forward a military fist, but covering it up with the velvet glove of humanitarianism and development.
We deliver this humanitarian assistance to these people. It helps increase that feeling of will and, importantly, providing a benefit to the population.
If there ever was a situation where AFRICOM personnel had to choose between protecting American interests or providing peace and stability to the African people, and we know that this choice will come up a lot, what are they going to choose?
Yeah, we've discovered around about 600 million barrels of resources. That's barrels of oil we think we can produce from the ground. We think there's over 1 billion barrels here in Uganda, and that's sizable. You're given that Uganda produces or needs about 11,000 barrels of oil a day.
I think government are being very sensible because as soon as they got the first discoveries of oil, they stopped giving out blocks of land for oil exploration while they took a step back and tried to figure out, ouch, what are we going to do with this oil? How are we going to manage it?
The presentation in that video gives a picture that is not complete. When you look at it and you listen to what they are saying, it's as if Kony is still in Uganda, as if Uganda is still at conflict. And yet, of course, we all know this is not true.
Beneath the scenic shorelines of Lake Albert, under the water and the lagoons, there are riches. Enough oil to dramatically change the fortune of Uganda. In full production, around 150,000 barrels of oil a day will be pumped out of this area. For now, the oil companies are still in exploration, drilling up to 4 kilometers into the earth.
Now I work as a genocide investigator, looking at one of the things that we have to look at is the role of people like myself, like Invisible Children, like John Prendergast, who you see in the film stating another couple of lies, and that is that no one in the U.S. government is going to do enough to stop this problem or do enough. He keeps mentioning the word enough. Enough is his organization. Enough is funded by the intelligence sector, by the Center for American Progress. Center for American Progress has funded 5 or 6 organizations to create FLAC around Central Africa. One of these is STAND, Students Taking Action Now on Darfur. Another one is Invisible Children on Uganda. Another one is the Resolve Group, also on Uganda. And Save Hope for the Congo. Raise Hope for the Congo. That's another one. All funded by the intelligence sector, by the Center for American Progress. And John Prendergast is the intelligence sector. In 1996, he was an intelligence operative in the National Security Council for William Jefferson Clinton. Museveni, the president of Uganda, came to power in between 1980 and 1986, backed by Israel, Britain, and the United States. Kony came from a woman named Joseph Lequena. Invisible Children has sold out of all of their propaganda, all of their things that you can buy online. So it's a profit-making venture, first of all. Second, it's a bunch of white guys who don't know nothing about nothing.
Well, I mean, they know, I mean, I've met these guys. They're from my hometown, and they're, you know, very religious, and they do. They look like blondes. They look like...
First off, don't be telling your kids who are 4 years old, or however old that toddler is, don't be sitting down, your kids, and filming them to tell them about child soldiers and hacking people's faces up and bad guys who need to be killed by other guys in green costumes. That's not what 4-year-olds can really process. Particularly don't do it when you're asking for lots of money for kits and taking the majority of it for your organization and only giving less than 1/3 of it to the recipients, some of whom are the Ugandan army, who have a brutal history of rape and theft and corruption. So, see, people in the third world, they don't need our charity. They don't need our help. What they need is for us to stop arming their dictatorships, stop dumping food on their markets, stop killing their local economy. It's like we've got, you know, one boot on the neck of Africa and the Africans, and we're sort of staring down at their twisted, pitiful, horrified faces and saying, how can we help you? To which the only response is, maybe get your boot off our fucking necks and we'll be fine.
No solamente en América, sino en todos los países del mundo en que se creara la lucha, se desarrollara la lucha revolucionaria. Ellos trataron de masacrar a Argelia, pero Argelia fue libre. Tratan hoy de liquidar al pueblo de Vietnam, pero el pueblo de Vietnam es más fuerte que ellos. Primero, la bestialidad imperialista. Bestialidad que no tiene una frontera determinada ni pertenece a un país determinado. Bestias fueron las hordas hitleristas, como bestias son los paracaidistas belgas, como bestias fueron los imperialistas franceses, en Argelia. Porque es la naturaleza del imperialismo la que bestializa a los hombres, la que la convierte en fieras sedientas de sangre que están dispuestas a degollar, a asesinar, a destruir hasta la última imagen de un revolucionario, de un partidario de un régimen que haya caído bajo su bota o que luche por su libertad.
Hey everybody, I just got done watching the Kony 2012 video, and I've got to say that it made me a little suspicious. And so the only new thing I learned from this video was that US troops had gotten sent there about 3 months ago, which is a pretty big deal, because there's a lot of mineral wealth in Central Africa, and so there's a big reason why our government might want to go in there. But governments have learned a few things over the centuries, and they know that it's not a good idea just to be open about what you want and run in there and take it. You have to be sneaky about it and convince your people that there is a good reason why you have to go in there. This reminds me of the recent war in Iraq, where we started saying how Saddam's such a super bad guy, we have to go in there and save the poor little people. But really, we wanted the oil. And then also another place in Afghanistan where we wanted to save the poor little people, but really, we wanted the opium. This also reminds me of what's going on in Central Africa, and we have to send in the troops in order to save the poor little people and children, but really, we wanted the mineral wealth. And this also reminds me of the recent war in Antarctica, where we had to save the poor little people, but really, we wanted the cute little puppies! And we got them! You don't know the intricacies of the situation, and you should think harder before you start supporting sending in troops, which might be from the bad guys. Did you ever think about that? That the U.S. troops might be the bad guys? That the people who lead the U.S. troops might be the bad guys? And so you might want to think twice before you send in the bad guys to take out the bad guys. And who's the worser bad guys? Maybe the U.S. is worse than the bad guys are in there.
What I really want people to focus on is what the video called for. It calls for a direct military intervention by the United States, looking at the U.S. Army as a force of good in the world. You know, whenever we hear U.S. military intervention, we know what that means. So in the case of Uganda, Kony is not in Uganda. He hasn't been there since 2006. The government of Uganda is an oppressive regime. We are calling to support an oppressive regime that's oppressing their own people. They have caused havoc in Somalia, in Rwanda, in the Congo, where now nearly more than 6 million people have died. And Uganda is a U.S. ally. And it goes back to President Obama, the commander-in-chief, very knowledgeable about the situation in that region. You know, as a senator, he wrote a law to deal with the problem in the Congo, to hold accountable Rwanda and Uganda. You know, today he's ignoring that law that he himself wrote. I mean, it's even outrageous. This is the president who actually allowed the Congo to use child soldiers. For the past 2 years, the United States president have given the Congolese army a waiver to use child soldiers in the military. So it's a shock to us to see that even the White House is so pleased with the video. But in all of this, the challenge is Africans are the ones suffering for these solutions. You know, Africans did not call for U.S. military intervention to deal with Kony.
But it sounds like what you're saying is that people should be demanding the exact opposite of the recommendation of that film. In other words, don't give military support to the Ugandan military.
No, you cannot give military support to an oppressive regime. They're going to use it against the people. This is the battle that's going on in Uganda right now. Ugandans are trying to change the government. They have a dictator who's in power for 26 years. That's what they're fighting about. This is the same government who have caused the death of more than 1 million, actually in northern Uganda. You know, put them in camps. You know, people have dubbed it as death camps. You know, this is the same government who are trying to kill any homosexual. You know, they introduced a law saying that if you're homosexual, either you are arrested, and that's the government that we are supporting right now.
News of the screening spreads far, and a large crowd gathers at sunset. They're expecting to watch a film that documents their suffering as they perceive it. For many people here, the video is simply puzzling. It contains footage of an American man, his son, and it documents events that happened here in northern Uganda years ago. But as the film progresses, puzzlement turns into anger.
there are some kind of people, there are some kind of NGO who are trying to mobilize funds using the atrocities committed in northern Uganda.
We wanted to see how our local people were killed.
Correct.
So these are all white men. These are feelings different from northern Uganda.
That is why sometimes
Rocks are thrown, the screening comes to a halt, and the crowd scatters into the night. Kony 2012 may be the most watched video on YouTube this year, but it clearly doesn't resonate with many of the people it claims it's meant to help.
So I thought I would make this video in sequence to my dislike for this whole Stop Kony campaign. The reason why that I'm against it is because, well, I think it's a bunch of bullshit. Now, I am 100% Ugandan. Both of my parents were born and raised in Uganda, and I tend to visit there from time to time. Last time I went was in the summer of 2010. So, last night I just see that this is like a trending topic on Twitter, and like this video has like millions and millions of views, and it's about Uganda and Kony. So I asked my mom, and my mom laughs and goes, "He died like 5 years ago." And I asked my dad, and he's laughing about it, and he goes, "Why are we talking about this? If we have military groups looking for Kony in Uganda, but he's not in Uganda, what are we doing?"
This is a trick that journalists and interviewers have been using for years.
We asked Jacob what he would say if his brother was still here.
Why? Why would you ask him that? Oh, that's right, you needed footage that looks like this. And their little plan worked. In 2010, they were able to spend upwards of $8 million. You can always tell people are serious about a movement when they start selling t-shirts. I love how these kids have enough money to go to Uganda, but the news insists on portraying it as some sort of rags to riches story.
A camera bought on eBay.
Bobby? So they bought a camera off eBay, had no experience at all, and churned out this amazing documentary that has caused a stir all over the country and the world.
Bobby?
And made it so they could spend $8 million in a year.
Bobby? It's blinking. I don't think there's any tape left. It's blinking red.
Invisible Children has a pro-military intervention policy. Why all of a sudden has this story broken? Could it have something to do with this?
The surprise announcement came in a letter from the White House to Congress. It immediately raised a key question. Why is the U.S., which is already involved in 2 long wars, deploying troops now?
It goes back to one thing: oil. Let's remember, Uganda has oil. It changes the calculus always with U.S. foreign policy when it's a country that is seen to be rich with this resource that's become almost an addiction for the U.S. and the global economy.
Fast forward again to August 2nd, 1990. Iraq attacks Kuwait, claiming the Kuwaitis are slant drilling into Iraq's oil fields. U.S. President George Herbert Walker Bush pushes for a land war against Iraq. But polls show the U.S. public is split 50-50 on that idea. Then comes this eyewitness testimony before a congressional committee from a 15-year-old Kuwaiti girl. The claim is she cannot be identified for fear of reprisals.
While I was there, I saw the Iraqi soldiers come into the hospital with guns. They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
The U.S. public is outraged. The result? Support for land war zooms. It's a turning point. Desert Storm is launched. 135,000 Iraqis are killed. An estimated 1 million Iraqis, many of them children and old people, then die as a result of 10 years of sanctions. One small problem. There never were any incubator baby deaths, not one. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation's investigative flagship program, The Fifth Estate, reveals the girl to be the Kuwaiti ambassador's daughter, given her lines and coached in acting by the giant American PR firm Hill & Knowlton. It's one phase in a $10 million joint U.S. Kuwaiti campaign of deception.
And why is that woe to us? Because you people and 62 million other Americans are listening to me right now. Because less than 3% of you people read books. Because less than 15% of you read newspapers. Because the only truth you know is what you get over this tube. Right now, there is an entire generation that never knew anything that didn't come out of this tube. This tube is the gospel, the ultimate revelation. This tube can make or break presidents, popes, prime ministers. This tube is the most awesome goddamn force in the whole godless world. And woe is us if it ever falls into the hands of the wrong people. And when the 12th largest company in the world controls the most awesome goddamn propaganda force in the whole godless world, who knows what shit will be peddled for truth on this network. So you listen to me. Listen to me. Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So if you want the truth, go to God. Go to your gurus. Go to yourselves. Because that's the only place you're ever going to find any real truth. But man, you're never going to get any truth from us. We'll tell you anything you want to hear. We lie like hell. We'll tell you that Kojak always gets the killer and that nobody ever gets cancer in Archie Bunker's house. And no matter how much trouble the hero is in, don't worry, just look at your watch. At the end of the hour, he's going to win. We'll tell you any shit you want to hear. We deal in illusions, man. None of it is true. But you people sit there day after day, night after night, all ages, colors, creeds. We're all you know. You're beginning to believe the illusions we're spinning here. You're beginning to think that the tube is reality and that your own lives are unreal. You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion. So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off